I'm Alistair Weaver for Edmunds at the Rivian headquarters in Irvine, California. We've been given exclusive top secret access to the new R2, which is hiding in there. On sale this spring, priced from 60 grand with cheaper versions to follow. It's a rival to tech-forward EVs like Tesla's Model Y and more adventure-focused vehicles such as Toyota's 4Runner. Let's see if this works. Boom, we're in, but no cameras. We're Edmunds. We test hundreds of cars each year on the road and at our private track, so you get the most trusted reviews. If you want to know which car, truck or SUV is the best, stick with us. I love design studios. You get a real sense of being in the inner sanctum. This is a clay model of the early prototype of the R2, and there's a bunch of people right over there designing the next generation Rivians. Anyway, back to the car. The R2 is a sister car to this, the R1S, the familiar three-row that's been on sale for a few years now. But it is $20,000 cheaper and a lot smaller. It's 15 inches shorter. So how does it stack up to the competition? Well, it occupies pretty much the same road space as a Tesla Model Y, down to a couple of inches, which means it's about 9 inches shorter than a Toyota 4Runner, which, let's face it, is pretty chunky. But, and this is an important but, the wheelbase, the bit between the wheels here, is larger than it is on both the Tesla and the Toyota, which helps with interior space, and it also gives the car this kind of planted adventure vibe. All the wheels are pushed out to the extremities of the car. Seriously, if Patagonia made a car, this would be it. The R2 will debut as a performance with a special launch pack, and that'll be joined later this year by the Premium. Then in 2027, life gets a bit cheaper with the launch of the Standard, including a rear-wheel drive version that should start at around 45 grand, the world's first affordable-ish Rivian. At that price, more competitors come into play. Hyundai's Ioniq 5 XRT EV is about the same size. Likewise, Honda's gas-powered Passport. The Ford Bronco and Jeep Wrangler also play the off-road card, but aren't quite as sophisticated. At Edmunds, we actually own a Tesla Model Y, a Ford Bronco, a Toyota 4Runner and a Honda Passport. So if you want to know what they're like to live with day to day, head to edmunds.com/news. And while you're there, check out everything else that we have to offer. And why not listen to the Edmunds CarCast podcast featuring yours truly. Rivian's design team did a great job of defining the brand's identity when they launched the R1T and the R1S. At night, you can see them coming a mile away. So it's no surprise that they kept that theme up with the R2, but there are some subtle differences. I was just having a chat with Rivian's chief designer, Jeff Hammoud, who was explaining that these front lights are actually lower and wider than they are on the truck, and that helps to give the car a more muscular appeal. There's some really nice detailing too. I love these wheels, which have some sort of aerodynamic profiling down the side. You've got a little indicator here with the Rivian badge. The door handles are familiar, and you might see some space here. Well, that's there for a reason. This car has a pretty decent ride height, significantly more, I think 3.4 inches more than the Tesla Model Y, and pretty much on a par with Toyota's 4Runner's TRD Pro. That's the specific off-road version. Things for me get really interesting here at the back. Now, on paper at least, a big boxy SUV design is not the most aerodynamic, but there's lots of clever detailing. For example, the roofline descends here through this little spoiler, so all of the air gets channeled through this extra little spoiler, which not only looks cool, it also reduces the drag, and that means more, all-important, electric vehicle range. Another neat feature is this little wiper here built into the rear door, and that exists for a reason, because on posher versions at least, this rear window descends into the door to give you that nice airy cabin feel. Also, you can have your surfboard poking out and look cool, even if you don't surf. Now, whether you're buying gas or electric, be sure to check out bumper.com. With just a license plate or a VIN, you can learn all about your next car's history, from how many owners it's had to where it was registered and more. Like the exterior, the interior of the R2 follows familiar Rivian themes, including, praise be, the retention of the famous door-mounted torch. Love this feature. One feature though that sadly didn't make the cut was Rivian's signature pull-out Bluetooth speaker present in the R1T and the R1S. Instead, down here you just get a still useful little drawer, but not quite as cool as before. I guess they had to save money somewhere. So what do you get? Well, you get tons of storage. There's a bin here, there's a little fold-out drawer here, there's a big basket here for a handbag or similar, 2 different door pockets, and particular fan of this, you get not 1 but 2 glove boxes, and you don't even have to push a button on the touchscreen to open them. Yay. The driving position's good, there's plenty of adjustment in the seat and the steering wheel, and I love the fact that you can see the corners of the vehicle. Back in the old days, Land Rover used to talk about a command driving position which helped you place the car off-road, and Rivian's really picked up that mantle. I also really like the feeling of quality in here. Rivian's always been good about putting together different materials, and it's no different here. This wood actually came from a tree, and I like the use of fabric. It all feels like a premium product. There's one other little feature I wanted to mention as well, which speaks to the attention to detail. In the original R1T, the phone charger system was a bit rubbish, and your phone used to fly around. On this, you now have MagSafe technology, so your phone will not only charge effectively, but also stay in place. The feeling of good design continues into the digital space. This car has a real sort of sense of occasion, a sense of fun. It's got personality, which I like. For example, this is all-purpose mode. If you go into sport mode, then the graphics change accordingly, and snow is different again. Now, this interface, both the hardware and the software, is actually a generation beyond what you get in the R1S and the R1T. The chief designer described it to me as like Rivian's second album. It's super quick, it's super responsive, and it feels really rather impressive. But what you don't get is Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Rivian's determined to build their own ecosystem. They say it's so that you can introduce more functionality from the car into the digital space, but let's face it, it's also so they contain the data for themselves. It's also nice to see a second screen directly in front of your eyes. Tesla could certainly learn something from that. And there is a feature that Rivian is particularly proud of. They look like Oreos mounted on their side, but they are new haptic controllers which allow you to access most of the car's function. For example, if you want to adjust the volume of your Spotify, you turn this knob here and it has a nice kind of haptic feedback. This right hand button controls the fan speed. Knock it to the left and I can adjust the temperature without having to take my eyes off the road or my hands off the wheel. We'll reserve judgment until we spent time behind the wheel to figure out how these work in practice, but they do feel suitably high-tech and reassuringly high quality. It's a neat feature which is way better than the little thumb controllers that you get in the R1S or the Tesla Model Y. One thing that is particularly impressive is the rear space. This driving position is set up for me. I'm 6'4", and as you can see, I've got plenty of headroom, plenty of knee room, and I can even slide my feet under the seat in front. Now, Tesla's Model Y also has decent rear room, but there's a lot more space in here than you get in Toyota's 4Runner, for example. And of course, because it's an EV, you don't have a transmission tunnel, so you get a better experience for the middle passenger too. Now, this is the Performance Edition with the launch pack, so there's plenty of bells and whistles. I love this big panoramic roof here, for example. You've got a little USB-C port here, and Rivian will sell you a special clip which bolts onto here, and you can mount an iPad to keep the kids entertained. I've got heating for the rear seats and a couple of extra cup holders if I fold down the center armrest. It's good back here. Let's talk cargo. The Rivian has a decently shaped trunk, and particularly if you're tall like me, it's a good height for just chucking stuff in. I also like the fact that, in common with Tesla, there's an extra good-sized cubby underneath here for storing things out of sight. And of course, there's also a front trunk, or frunk if you prefer, that's big enough for an overnight bag and a spare rucksack. It's nice to see you get a 12 volt and a 120 volt plug back here for keeping that laptop charged. And I'd like to commend Rivian for going for a 40-20-40 split in the rear seat, which means that if you fold the center one down, you get a nice flat area to throw in your skis or something similar. And if you fold it all down, you get a nice flatbed. Rivian will even sell you a special mattress for making it a bit more comfortable, and they assure me that there's enough space back here for a 6'2" individual. Well, I'm 6'4", and I reckon if I slept diagonally, I'd just about be comfortable. But as you can see, not much room for company. This car doesn't have it, but you can get an optional tow package, and the R2 is rated to tow 4,400 pounds, which is better than a Model Y's 3,500 pounds, but lags behind the 4Runner TRD Pro's 6,000 pounds. You get a Tesla-style NACS port for all your charging, so you can use Tesla superchargers, and it's positioned in the same place as it is on a Tesla. Why is that important? Well, the Tesla cords are very short. I drove a Cadillac the other week and I had to bounce it up onto the sidewalk so I could get the damn cord into the charging port. So good thinking, Rivian. And there's also on here a little Easter egg. You've got this kind of crazy maze. Why? Absolutely no idea, but it is kind of cool. So far, I've been concentrating on the performance flagship version, but here in the studio, they've also got this very cool little styling book which shows the standard edition, which eventually will cost from just 45 grand. They have decontented it a bit, but honestly, really so you'd notice. Gone is the USB-C port here, but you still get one on the center console. Gone is the fabric, but you still this kind of nice sort of, I don't know what you call that, it's a sort of galactic effect. Gone is the wood trim on the dashboard, but you still get this nice fabric which has a kind of warm feel about it. Unlike the Tesla Model Y standard, which feels like it's been decontented for the Uber drivers, this still feels like a premium alternative. What are you really giving up? Not much. Let's talk performance. The headline-grabbing performance version will launch first with 2 motors, all-wheel drive, 656 horsepower and 609 pounds-feet of torque. Rivian claims 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds, which matches our test figure for the Tesla Model Y Performance. The EPA reckons it will achieve 330 miles on a single charge, more than the Y Performance achieved in the Edmunds EV range test. It'll be followed by the R2 Premium with a still healthy 450 horsepower and all-wheel drive. Shortly afterwards, we'll see a standard version with 350 horsepower and rear-wheel drive for 50 grand. Rivian says that will have a range of around 340 miles. Finally, in late 2027, the range will be completed by an entry-level R2, which should cost around 45k. With a smaller battery, Rivian is estimating around 265 miles, which is a bit mediocre in today's market. And every Rivian will be offered with a broad range of accessories. They're trying to not just build a car, they're trying to build a lifestyle, a brand. Including this rather fabulous roof tent, they'll probably set you back about 5 grand, but hey, it looks very cool and it works on your R1S and it works on your new R2. And you can even have it with a projector so you can sit in the wilderness and watch TV, which for me defeats the point of camping. But, you know, each to their own. You can have a nice little Rivian blanket, and what else do you got? Oh, of course, the camping kit. If you are the ultimate glamper, then you can have your very own Rivian conduction stove. Very, very posh. Interesting, Rivian has got a chart on the wall here of all the different competitors: Tesla Model Y, Porsche Macan EV, Mercedes GLC, but no Toyota 4Runner, which is interesting because we think it's going to appeal to a similar demographic. Anyway, before I launch into the conclusion, I did want to make a small appeal for you to like and subscribe to our channel. We have a big team of people and they all work jolly hard to produce these films. And if you follow us, it gives us a warm, fuzzy feeling. So if you'd like to like and subscribe, we'd appreciate it very, very much. Thank you very much. Marvelous. On to the conclusion. If we're honest about it, now is not a great time to launch an EV in the US. Most manufacturers are cutting back on model plans, writing off billions of dollars, and bribing consumers to buy their products with heavy incentives. As I speak, you can lease a Hyundai Ioniq 5 for a little more than $200 a month. Now, Rivian's had its own problems, but the high-volume R2 is critical to its future success. Eventually, they want to build 150,000 examples of these every year. Now, that sounds like a lot until you consider that Tesla sells 1 million Model Ys every year. And the problem with selling 1 million examples of something is that they end up on every street corner. The Rivian has the advantage of novelty. You're not going to be picked up in an R2 Uber anytime soon. And it is desirable. To my eyes at least, it has a cool factor that no gas or electric car can currently match. And that alone should be enough to tease people out of their Toyotas or Teslas. We reserve full judgment until we've driven it, of course, but one of the most anticipated cars of 2026 is off to a great start. That's it for now. If you have any questions about the R2 or frankly anything else that Edmunds does, then be sure to write them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.